Max?
Okay. Thanks. I'm good. I unmuted it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Welcome. We'll let Ian jump back on here. Okay. Hi. Welcome to the LuLaBabe Training. It is Thursday, January 12th. Thanks. I don't know my date.
Hannah's gone. Party!
So we can do whatever we want, guys.
I know.
Great meeting. For some reason, it wouldn't record.
Why were we not wearing purple tonight, Tracy? I should have been wearing purple.
I know. Well, yeah.
Okay, so tonight we're going to talk on doing LuLaBabe Full Time with your spouse. But first, we're going to introduce ourselves and share with you our why and kind of our story a little bit. So, man, I'm getting crazy messages. So I'm Megan Soames. That's my husband, Ian.
That's me.
I actually started almost exactly a year ago. I onboarded on January 18th. I attended one of Hannah's online parties and ordered like 5 pieces. And actually, I hosted a party and ordered 5 pieces and fell in love with everything that I got. And I was like, I went to Ian and I was like, honey, I need more money because I really, really like these clothes and I want to buy more. And he's like, sorry, I don't have more money to give you. So good luck with that.
I worked from home full time for a bank at the time, but it wasn't enough to buy the clothes she wanted and everything else that we wanted. So I was working like these crazy telemarketing jobs from home. And so, yeah, it was a stretch. Everything was a stretch at that time.
So, Hannah hosted a Q&A with Mike, and it just talked about the business and how to start and all that. And I went to my friend and was like, hey, you want to go in on this with me? And then I told Ian that we were thinking about doing a joint partnership, and he's like, just do it by yourself. You can totally do it. And I was shocked that he was so supportive. So I jumped in and started selling, and then things went great, crazy busy, but great. And then about 8 months into it, Ian lost his job, and we were like, okay, I guess he's a full-time LuLaBro now. So it was totally out of circumstance, not by choice. And then here we are. So yeah. And we have 5 kids, and we live in Whidbey Island in Washington.
So everything was just kind of when I lost my job, Megan had just about matched my income level, and we were like, let's see if you can do all that. I was helping her, but for the most part, she was doing it by herself with an hour or 2 from each day. And we're like, if you make that much just by yourself, then we can probably do more and beat what I was doing with the bank if I help out. And it's been
the
wonderful.
First month we more than doubled his annual or his
not annual.
His monthly. The first month we more than doubled his monthly salary. So he more than doubled what I was making. So or he helped add that or whatever. So yeah. Tracy and Todd, you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. So we started about the same time. My launch was January 31st, so I'm coming up on a year. It's crazy. I can't believe it's been a year. So how we got into it is Hannah is actually Todd's aunt. Weird family. They're not much age difference there, but that's how it goes. But it started with a pair of leggings because Hannah brought a bag full of pair of leggings to a family Christmas party. And this is story time, just to kind of give you guys an idea. But she brought a bag full of leggings to the Christmas party, and she gave a pair to like every woman there. So from that, we signed up, and 5-6 other people from our family have signed up. So just so you know, you never know what that pair of leggings that you give out will do. I mean, it obviously not always is that, but just saying, be generous, like they say. So I had bought 2 pairs of LuLaRoe before, and I was just, I had no clue what was going on, but I kept hearing these stories, and so I didn't even dare ask Hannah how much it cost to start. Like, I heard it from someone else, and I went to Todd, and I said, I've kind of been thinking about this LuLaRoe thing, and I told him it costs about $5,000, and he laughed and walked away.
Okay.
And then it didn't go out of our heads. And so we jumped and we did it and never have looked back. So that's our story.
We didn't just jump. Mike actually called me and told me, hey, you just got to watch one of our parties and you guys are going to want to do this. And we did. And it was like, oh, yeah, duh.
Just to go into it. So when we started, it was kind of, I ran my LuLaRoe business on the side. Like Todd was working. He drove a truck for Sarah Lee. So he was gone 3 nights a week. Like he was gone. And I would run my business on those days that he was gone, which looking back, we'll kind of talk about, but oh man, I regret not getting him involved from the beginning. So we'll get there. But we live in Utah. We're in Saratoga Springs and we have 3 kids. I started when I was pregnant as well. So, there was a lot of long nights and I was really tired, but definitely paid off. So we now have a 6-year-old, a 2-year-old, crazy 2-year-old, and a 5-month-old. So that's our little family. And then do you want to talk about just how we got here?
Yeah. So as she said, I had a contract with the Bimbo Bakeries or Sarah Lee, and I also held the distribution rights for Oro wheat bread. So I'd transport bread to Wyoming, and then I'd actually distribute the product I held the rights for. But anyway, they ended up they did a bid, and I got outbid basically on the trucking part. And it was like, well, I can keep doing the bread, the Oro wheat, but I'm going to have to drive up there 3 times a week on my own dollar. Like I'm not making anything, or we can just bag it and see where this goes.
We said bag it, yep. And we are now both full-time LuLaRoe.
I hate bread.
He likes clothes much better than bread.
No, I like bread. But, yeah. Clothes don't go bad.
So that's our story.
That's true. Yeah, they don't get moldy.
No.
Except I do have a moldy Doritos Amelia still. So.
Doritos,
So that's it.
Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about 2 main points. We're going to talk about communication between you and your spouse and support between you and your spouse. So let me just look at my notes real quick.
While she's looking, one of the things that we talked about as we were getting ready for this training is not everybody is going to be 2 spouse, both members of your marriage. How do you say that? Both of you, you and your spouse on board with LuLaRoe full time. Not everybody can. Not everybody even has a spouse or a partner in the home. So, it's not necessarily feasible for everyone, but there's still good ways for you to support each other and to get support that you need from the people in your family.
And I think also some of you guys are in partnerships with a friend. I think a lot of these things are relevant for partnerships. And then I think also if you're single, as far as a consultant and you don't have a spouse, I think a lot of these things are also relevant as far as getting support from your support system. So the first one we're going to talk about is communication. And there's just when we kind of realized how we weren't really communicating very well as far as LuLaRoe, was when Ian, I think it was right before he went full time with me. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to do more lives because all these people, the Seductions, all these people are rocking their live sales. And so I was determined that I was going to do lives and I was going to rock it. And I'm really boring. And so I'd get on there and I'd talk and people would come on and sometimes people would buy stuff, but about 20 minutes in, I'd just be like, and here's a maxi, and here's another one, and here's another one. And it was like viewers would just drop off and drop off. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to get Ian on there because I know he's funny. People love him. Women love him. I was like, this is going to be awesome. And so I was like, hey, will you do lives with me? And he's like, sure. All right. So he would jump in and he'd be like in the little background, like handing me stuff and like putting stuff on hangers for me. And like sometimes he wasn't even on in the background. He was just standing in front of me. And I was getting agitated because I was like, I had this plan in my mind of him being next to me and being funny and engaging and having somebody to like banter with. And what it ended up being was him like talking really quietly and me being like, no, not that one, the other one, that one. And it was like, it made him worse. And so he finally came to me. Well, maybe you should tell why you came to me.
I just felt totally lame. Like, you could have had anybody in there. You could have had, just a hanger doing the job that I was doing. So I knew, like, we weren't accomplishing what she was wanting to accomplish. And so I was just like, so what, like, I don't know, I'm on the live, but I feel like there's something more that you want me to do. I just don't know what you want me to do. You told me to be there, so I'm there, and I'm just waiting for instructions.
So he came to me and just said that. He's like, I feel like you want more from me in these live sales, but I don't know what it is. And I was like, oh, well, let me tell you, I want you next to me and I want you to be funny. And he's like, okay, I can do that. And our next live sale, we got so many messages from people that were like, that was the best live sale ever. Ian is awesome. When's your next live sale? I'm super excited. And we didn't lose people. Like, numbers stayed high the whole time. And so now we have a live every Tuesday. And if we're like 5 minutes late, which, is every week because we live late. But whenever we're like a little bit late, we get people messaging like, are you guys going live tonight? I can't miss my show. And we've had people jump in and be like, my husband's watching with me. He loves you guys. And so having him on there has been awesome, but it taught me a great lesson that I need to be a little bit more forward in what I'm wanting, not because he wasn't being helpful. It's because he was trying to be helpful, but he didn't know what I wanted. So that was one of the things that we wanted to talk about, was just being forward and open and honest as far as what your needs are and what you are expecting. And then on the receiving end, being open and humble and willing to accept, different things, because up till this point in our marriage, he's been the breadwinner. And for me to I don't know, I was kind of like in this weird position of like, well, I'm working now, but now you're working with me. And so I'm telling you how to work, even though you've been the one working all this time. And so I was a little nervous about even stepping forward and saying anything. So that was one of our, main things, was just being open and honest and forward.
And I'm just like, in my brain, I'm just going, I just want to make more money. So tell me what to do so we can make more money.
Yeah, he's like,
I'm just a numbers guy. I just.
Do you guys have anything to add?
To add to that, like you were saying, just be humble. You got to be humble on both ends. So when I really first started helping Tracy, I could tell that I was driving her nuts, because I have, like, when I package, I set my stuff out, I clear the whole area, and it's an assembly line. I get everything set up, and then boom, 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 boom. And it's clean. I've got a garbage can there for the little strips off the mailers.
And when I package, I throw the little strips off the mailers onto the ground. I have this here. We do it very different.
A freaking mess. Look like a bomb went off in here.
So, very different.
So, yeah, you just got to be open to somebody.
A different idea.
Yeah, somebody's going to do things different than you. And if there is a better way, to explain nicely why there's a better way, or to ask why they're doing it that way. But yeah, that's a big thing. It's any team. You're going to have issues like that. People do things differently. So, but
there's also a key. And I mean, again, this doesn't just apply with marriage. If you have a partner or an assistant or someone that helps you, just turn it. You can just split it. So that is now, I still can't work that way. Like, nope. He's told me it's a mess and it drives me crazy. But I can't work that way. So now guess who handles shipping? So, and I was just going to talk about lives too, just because that's when Todd started getting involved. Like, it was in August, or end of July, we had little Max, our baby. And that's when Todd really kind of started getting involved on, surface level. And he did we got Carly's right when we came home from the hospital. And I was like, oh my gosh, we got to sell these Carly's. Everyone's going crazy about Carly's. So Todd got on live. I sat in the background holding the newborn baby. And it was like, oh my gosh, people are responding so much better to two people than one. So, it doesn't even necessarily have to be your spouse, but if you can get someone on live with you, like Megan was saying, it's not so awkward. Like you have someone to talk to, someone to feed off of. And then just another thing with communication is we sometimes struggled with, like, obviously most of the stuff is done through my account, like messaging customers and stuff. So, and even people in our team. So we have now, started group text, like with members in our team, so that people know who they're talking to. So we write very differently. Like, so if Todd, he doesn't use the exclamation smileys and stuff. And people are used to that from me. Like, I do lots of exclamation marks, lots of smiley faces. And Todd, just like, no, we don't want to. And
short and sweet and to the point.
To me, that comes off so rude. And when people are used to smiley faces, exclamation marks, and then it's like, no, then it's just like, oh my gosh. So we have had to start, we add each other into group messages, like with team members. And then also Todd's gotten good about saying, this is Todd, to some of our really good customers. So, and he is actually learning how to write more like me with smiley faces.
I'm getting really probably. I've never used many emojis in my life.
True. So just if you're working with a partner, keep that in mind too, that you communicate differently. And so you want to make sure on the other end, people can know who they're talking to. So I was just going to add that to that part of the communication as well.
We're cracking up over here because we are smiley faces and emojis and
heart.
Yeah, so he's now learned, because he'll comment like on during our sale,
questions
he'll comment
and stuff.
on posts, like on their comments when they say sold or whatever. And so he's like, please fill out the Google form, heart. So because I'm the same way. Like, I feel like when you're just like, no, we don't have that, then people are like, well, thank you a lot.
I know.
But when you're like,
I read it too.
So
I'm
sorry,
like,
we don't have that, but we'll keep looking for you. You're like, heart, smiley face. Like there's
heart's your go-to.
there. And it's women that we're shopping or that are shopping with us. So we're cracking up at that because I totally relate to that.
It's so true.
Yeah, my go-to is the smiley winky face.
Smiley winky of a lot of people.
Well, I was gonna say, oh gosh, I forgot. You guys were saying one more thing that I was thinking. It made me think of something else. I don't know. We'll move on.
She was about to go on this.
Yep, go for it.
Okay. So did you have anything more with communication? Sorry, I don't want to move on completely.
Did you have any more?
I
knew what I was going to say. When you were talking about packaging, because he can't wrap packages very pretty. So we have gotten to a point now where, because he would get frustrated with me because I wanted to do the packages so pretty and I wanted to write the pretty note and, have the sticker on it, and I wanted it to look so nice. And he'd be like, I'd be doing a million other things. He'd be like, honey, we're 2 days behind on packages. We have to get these packages out. But I really wanted him to look really nice. And finally he was like, I came in one day, I don't remember how long it had been. It had been like 2 or 3 days. We had packages just sitting there, and I came in, he was packaging them. And I was kind of annoyed because they didn't look pretty and they didn't have pretty notes and they didn't have hearts or anything, fun. But I was like, you know what? That just needs to happen. And so we talked later that night. I was like, thanks so much for doing those packages. He's like, yeah, sorry about that. They just needed to go out. And I was like, yeah. And so he said, he's like, if you can let that go, I'm totally fine with packaging. Like, I know you're busy, you're doing a million other things. If you can let that go, then I can do that. And it's fine. Like, they love your notes and your happy things. And I can write notes, but they're not going to be your notes. But he could still, sometimes when we have like 100 packages to send in like 2 hours to do it, sometimes we just write, thank you, Susan. And then that's it. And so he's capable of doing that. So that kind of leads us into our next topic, which is, defining what roles you have, but being willing to let go of some things that just aren't that important was a big step for me. And then a little bit after that, maybe like a month and a half, 2 months after that, we had a similar conversation about sales because I want to focus more on my team. And I just, the sales are so, time sensitive, like we have our sale every Thursday at 5 o'clock. That happens no matter what. Where with my team, it's like, okay, well, I can get back to them tomorrow. And so what was happening is I was focusing on these sales and my team was just suffering. And so he was finally like, hey, I'll take over as much of sales as you'll let me have. If you'll just let that go, then you can focus on your team. And that he said it a couple times. And for a while I was like, yeah, okay, sure. And then a week would go by and he'd bring it up again, and I'd be like, okay, sure, thanks. But then it finally got to a point where I was like, I feel like my team is seriously suffering, and he was able to do that. So he's taken over sales almost completely. I mean, we still do pictures together, and I upload and we still do stuff together, but he was able to take over so much of that. And just me knowing that he was doing that and being able to let go, I felt this huge burden lifted. And it ended up being a blessing in other ways, because I actually had time to do laundry and to like sit down and read my daughter a book and do all these other things. And it wasn't so much the fact that he was doing more, which he was doing more, but it was just the knowledge that he was doing more, and I had less to stress about, so that I could focus on what I needed to focus on.
Yes. And honestly, splitting those roles, like, it makes it so much less complicated, because we ran into the problem of, I was talking to a customer and then Todd was supposed to be shipping, but then I came in, I'm like, oh my gosh, no, you're not supposed to ship that. She's coming to pick it up. And, it was just too complicated. So now Todd, it's completely separate. Like, he does invoicing, he does all of that. And I just, I do the other stuff. I mostly focus on
pretend to be Tracy on Messenger and use lots of hearts and winky face emojis. And
so that's something that, and that's such a good point is, it's not necessarily if it's not going to be a spouse, but if you have an assistant, it's hard to sometimes let tasks go.
A teammate or partner.
A team partner, yeah. It's sometimes hard, because especially if you've been doing it alone for a while, because I did my LuLaRoe basically alone up until July. Like, I did it when Todd was gone, because that's when I had the time, and he wasn't there very often. So when he was there, I, made it our family time. So it is hard at first to let things go, like, oh, I don't do it that way. But once you do, and you just put it in their ballpark, it is so, it takes the burden off finally. Move on.
I think one of the things for us that really made it easy, even before I was full-time LuLaRoe, was just kind of having a conversation around, okay, so we went from me working full-time and her doing the home stuff full-time to me working full-time and her working full-time and her doing the home stuff full-time. And I could see this isn't going well. Like, just
what ended up happening is he was working full-time, I was working full-time, and the laundry wasn't getting done, and we weren't eating dinner, and our house was falling apart.
Corn dogs and
our
chicken
kids
nuggets
were fighting,
every day.
And even a couple of our kids started having struggles in school. So, like, he was working full-time and I was working full-time, but all my other jobs just stopped being done.
So things kind of, started to fall apart. And so we just, I thought to myself at that time, this is even, like I said, before I joined LuLaRoe full time, I just said, what are some things that I can do? I love to cook, so I took dinner, and so there are different things that I could do. These are the things I can do in LuLaRoe. These are the things I can do in life. I do the kids' carpool, take them to and from school most of the time. That's easy. Like, I can do that, and that can help her focus on, things that I'm not as good at. But I think regardless of what your support system looks like, whether you're running this as a partnership or, what your household looks like, it's good to have a conversation sort of along the lines of, hey, I want to do this. It demands more time. I wasn't doing it before. We need to make some adaptations. I don't English.
Changes.
I don't
we need
English
to make some
well.
changes.
We need to make some changes. And so where can we take, what can we take, remove from our schedule to free up time, or what can I, remove from your schedule to free up some of your time so that you can then help me with this? And then just being open, I think one of the difficulties that I've heard from people on our team, as well as just kind of in LuLaRoe and, at leadership and whatnot, is wives who want to do LuLaRoe and they don't get any support from their husbands. But I think part of the problem is the husbands don't know how to support, and the wives are saying, well, I want you to be like Phil Russell. Well, not every husband's going to be Phil Russell. And so you know, we have some husbands who are going to say, I don't want to touch the clothes. I don't want to look at the live sales. I don't want to I have a camera on me, but you know what? Yeah, I can make dinner, or I'll take the kids out to dinner so we're not even noisy in the house. And so you just got to be open to more, not just saying, here's what we need to have you do. To get the right support, you need to approach it from, here's what here's what the ideal looks like for me. How can we achieve that together?
I think another thing that I've seen in a lot of LuLaRoe families is, you know, for most of, I don't know if I can generalize, but for a lot of American people, the husband works and the wife stays home. And so when that dynamic switches, there's you know, things that happen that you're not used to happening. And so for some men, it's hard for them to have a wife that's working and not doing all the things that they're used to their wife doing. And for some women, it's hard for them to expect their husband to help with household things that they're not used to helping. And so I think for each marriage or partnership or whatever it is, defining those roles unique to you. And like Ian was saying, like, figure out what you can bring to the table and what you need from your spouse. And that goes from both sides, you know, from a supportive spouse that's not doing LuLaRoe to be open to switching things around, you know, changing things up and having things be different. And I know we've had some people that we've seen that their husbands want nothing to do with LuLaRoe. And that's okay. But are you willing to then hire help? Are you then willing to get a babysitter or get somebody in to help you photograph or invoice or ship, or even from a spousal standpoint, are you willing to have, you know, to suggest that to your spouse that's doing LuLaRoe, like, hey, I can't help you with this, but let's hire somebody to clean the house, or let's have meals delivered, or, you know, like, there's so many other ways that you guys can support each other without everybody focusing on LuLaRoe.
Yep. To add on that, or an example of that, not quite at the beginning, but as our inventory was growing, it got to the point where, like, pictures were spilling into, I don't know, Tracy, the way she said it kind of sounded like I didn't want anything to do with it. I helped when and where I could, but
no, he worked a really busy schedule.
Yeah,
too, a lot
I
of
worked
might know.
60, 70 hours a week and was gone for 3 whole days at a time, basically. But anyway, when it got to a point where pictures were starting to take a lot of our family time, and so we hired our neighbor girl to come over for $10 an hour, clothes, to take pictures, and it was great. And it's just splitting stuff up. And
I remember those days. I hate taking pictures.
Not really justifiable at this point or anymore. Quality control has gone up. Let's say that.
Yeah, so that's a good example, though, because in the beginning, like, Todd was there, he was supportive, but he didn't have the time. So he was fine with, you know, I also got a house cleaner, and that was amazing. And that helped so much, you know, just taking that stress off of me. So, you know, it's like Megan and Ian were saying, it's not always about the clothes, but it's a lot of times, you know, helping with the side things, picking up kids, cleaning. I know, like, when we do in-homes like that, you know, I never get home for bedtime if I go and do an in-home. So Todd's role then, his role isn't being at the in-home with me, you know, helping women try on clothes. His role then is, you know, helping with the kids. So I am not stressed about that. You know, he's putting the kids to bed. So I'm not worried about bedtimes and schedules. So that's exactly, I don't know, what else do you have to add to that? You guys did good. Also, just with roles, like, there is, you know, just like how I was talking about being in home, you have to realize that, you know, we'll both have different strengths. So women's clothing, you know, I'm going to be the person who is going to be the front end of it, you know, like, we're not going to post Todd in a picture of an Amelia and sell lots of Amelias. So we have different roles, as much as he likes doing that. We really have to kind of, you know, realize, okay, Tracy, you know, women like trying on clothes and matching things. Well, that's not even true. A lot of women like Todd's matching better than my matching.
I smoke her outfits.
We do have thing in your group, a battle of the dresses. We both post an outfit every day. He usually wins. So that was a bad example. But, you just have to realize that not always will it be like if your husband wants to support you, you got to let him know that
Amelia zipper.
He doesn't have to be zipping the Amelia. That's a good one.
Okay, so we have a question. Ashley said, how do I get my hubby to help? He just says it's my job. Any advice? So actually there was somebody at one of the leaderships I think it was in May, and she had the same problem. And actually, I can't remember their last name, Lautahas. They talked about that too. But I think that's really common, that a lot of husbands are like, no, this is your hobby. This is your thing. This is, this has nothing to do with me. And I think that's what we were talking about earlier about, some husbands, that's not their thing. But that's when you can come to them and be honest and share your why with them and help them to understand that this isn't just a hobby. This isn't just, a fun little thing that you picked up. This is important to you. And you share with them why. And I think when they can see that feeling, sometimes that can help them go, I didn't realize that this was so important to you. And then they're like, of course, yes, let me help you. But sometimes they'll still say no. Sometimes they'll say, that's great. I'm glad you have this wonderful thing for you. But that's what we were talking about. Like, you can ask other people to help. You're not every husband is going to be supportive, or some husbands just take a long time. Like the Lautahas, like it took him going on the cruise to finally be like, wait, what is this thing? Like, wow, this is amazing. I didn't realize it was so huge and awesome. And then he finally jumped on board. I think it was like 2 years later or something. It was like way down the road where she was like making buco bucks until he finally started drinking the Kool-Aid. So some husbands won't, some husbands will, and some husbands will just take time. But I think sharing your why and then just being willing to have, reach out to others for help and support.
So Ashley says she just launched last week, so she's new to it. I was just thinking while she was talking about, from the husband's perspective, and this isn't for everyone, but I think this is a pretty common thing that happens. So LuLaRoe takes a lot of time, even if you're just a customer. Like when my wife started getting interested in it, I'm like,
all the periscopes.
What? Can I get some help putting the kids to bed? And she's sitting here scrolling through leggings and dresses and skirts, and then she doesn't even buy anything. I'm like, all that for what? So
he wouldn't give me money.
So then, then when you're onboarded and you're taking pictures and you just launched or you've got this new thing in your life, honestly, from a husband's perspective, it's like, I just lost my wife. Like I had her, I go to work, she takes care of the kids, she makes dinner, the laundry's clean. I don't have to worry about, all those sorts of things. I take out the trash and I do my full-time job or whatever. But then when she started doing LuLaRoe and it started gaining momentum, I saw it as a good thing, but at the same time, it was really frustrating because I felt like I was being abandoned in a way. Like all of those things that I relied on her for, she let just kind of go. She kind of said it. I'm not throwing her under the bus here.
No, I totally admit it. Everything else was gone.
Digging I already wore that shirt, but I wore that one twice already. So I only wore this one twice. Exactly. So, be
like, honey, I'm on day 3 of the same underwear. Something's got to change.
We all laugh because we all know.
Yep, it's the life.
We're just being real here. That's happened.
So I think, when you come, if you go to a husband at that point and say, hey, can you help me? And my perspective at that point would have been, I am helping you. I'm making the dinner. I'm doing the dishes. I'm not doing the laundry, but I'm doing everything else that you used to do. So I think you got to make sure it's not an ask only. It's an ask as well as, hey, this is like Megan said, share your why so they know kind of why you're committed to it. But then say, hey, you have guys night, you have poker night, you have this. I'm going skiing tomorrow, and Megan's got the kids all by herself. So we make sacrifices for each other. And so maybe helping them say, see, hey, here's what I try to do to support you. Is there anything that you can do to help me in this? again, not prescribing, saying, I want you to take pictures or I want you on the live sale, but saying, here's ways that you could help. Are you interested in helping?
And I also think an important thing as a LuLaRoe consultant, and I know I struggle with and a lot of us struggle with, but here's just a reminder to commit to it, is having a schedule for yourself so you're not always LuLaRoeing. So, I mean, just to go off of that, yeah, you need business hours. And we say that, and we're not perfect at it. We struggle. But if you disconnect from your phone, from 5 to 7, and you make that really good family time with your kids and your husband, like you guys do something good together, like it'll go so much further than if you're answering a message here and kind of halfway there. So really commit to having a schedule. And even if you go to your husband and like they're saying, you need to make sure he knows why it's important to you. So for a lot of us, it's not, I think a lot of us got big green eyes, like seeing the money, like, holy cow, we can make a lot of money selling clothes, just posting a few pictures. It'll be super easy. I think a lot of us did that, and then, it became a lot bigger. So, like, for us, it became, my team became a lot of my why. Like, I love the friendships I was developing and helping other people achieve their goals. So, I think Todd's seen that, he's sat by me and I've shared my why before, and just he knows what it means to me, and that kind of helps him, support it more, because it's not just me doing my little clothes thing. And, even before we were full time. What were you going to say?
Just to kind of add an answer to Ashley's question, something that really, where the spark really kind of lit in my head was I started kind of getting immersed, or she let me get involved in the culture. There is a LuLaRoe culture, and it's ridiculous. We actually were invited to a dinner at Kim Roylance's house, and her husband Doug got talking about kind of the manufacturing side of things and some of the other aspects of the business, and that's what really got me involved or more excited about it. But that's one way to get them more interested, is actually let them experience or feel the culture, have them go to a train or what are they called, Super Saturday or whatever.
Yes. And
involve them. Yeah, inspire was huge too. That it just lights a fire under you. It makes you want to be involved. So that would be one thing I would say.
At what point do you say, hey, hubby can quit his job and we will be okay? That is a really good question. I think both you guys and us, I think we're kind of just thrown into it, and it wasn't really.
It just happened.
Really thought about plan. Yeah. When I first started, so I started in January, and to be honest, my initial why, which we were going to share our whys with you guys at the beginning, we totally forgot. My initial why was I want more clothes. To be honest, that's really all it was. I wanted more clothes. Super shallow, but that was it. And then it wasn't until what?
It works.
I know, it does. I got more clothes. I got hundreds of pieces of clothes right away. But it wasn't until May when I went to leadership, and I was, and I saw everything, and I understood what I was capable of, and I saw these people that were, I went in and saw these crazy bonus checks. Phil and Danielle's bonus check was insane. And just seeing, what people were capable of. And so Phil and I were I was just chatting with Phil about this last night. Phil and I were in line for the food trucks, and he just was like, so tell me about you. Like, just tell me your story. And so I just started talking. And I got to a point in my story where I realized that what my real why had become was my husband has worked for the last 15 years to support our family and worked really, really hard for us, and we're still just scraping by. We still have tons of debt. We still can't get anything extra. We can't do any fun vacations or, do the kind of things that I want to do. And the thought of me being able to help us get to a point where he could quit corporate America and do what he wanted, which, he's always wanted to teach music or teach math, and the thought of getting to that point, and I started crying talking to Phil about this, like the fact that I could get us there was an amazing dream. So that became my why. And I didn't tell Ian that. And that was what was kind of just pushing me on for all those months. So that had been my goal. I don't think for a second, I mean, you can answer, I don't think for a second he even considered that up until that point that LuLaRoe would ever get us there.
Yeah.
But I think as far as if we were to have chosen that, I think you would need to get to a point where you feel your inventory is good, your inventory numbers are good, at, good sustainable level, and that's different for everybody. It depends on what you want, but at a level that you can continue without having to build to sell more. And then also you have a good customer base that, even on slow weeks, you still can get local people in and still get them buying things. And then after you've got both of those two factors, I feel like then you can decide financially if it's worth it. Then you can look at your books and see, okay, we're bringing in this much in sales, and we're doing this much to replenish, and we're doing this for our shipping totals, and okay, what's left? And then you can make that decision.
That's
what I was going to say is, I mean, when the numbers are what they need to be. I mean, I don't know what everybody's specific numbers are on what your house or rent is. I mean, that's all stuff you got to factor. I mean, you need to figure out what your minimum dollar amount that you need every month. And once you've got that and more, I mean, at that point, that's when you evaluate, is this what we really want to do? Or
I think having a team is also gives a little more security to that as well. Like, I mean, we have up weeks, down weeks. We go a week without working because we're on vacation or something. But if you have a team, then you've got your your bonus there that still kind of evens out. And honestly, our bonus is our monthly budget for our family mostly. And then the LuLaRoe business kind of runs itself now off of the weekly sales that we do.
That's how ours is as well. Is our bonus checks pay the big bills, and sales, we have a goal of a certain amount minimum that we want to do every month for the other stuff, like the smaller things.
And that's a really good point, Tracy. I think if that's who said that, Annalise? I think if that's a desire of you to get to a point where your husband can work from home, I think that you need to sit down and say, okay, how much do we need to make in our sales monthly for this to be realistic? And you can do it, because that's the thing. When he quit working, I wasn't making enough to support our family, but we were like, okay, we have to. And so we ordered a bajillion things, and that was actually right in the middle of one of the slower times. And so it took a while to get to us. And when it did, we had the best sales we'd ever had. But I think if you can set that goal, you can push yourself to get there. Like I said, we weren't there, and we were like, crap, we got to get there. And so we did. We just pushed it and we did it. And that's the beauty of LuLaRoe, is that if you work that much harder, you can do it. So I totally recommend sitting down, crunching the numbers, and figuring out how much you need to live off of, and then making that goal.
Exactly. Perfect. I have to point out something else. This is such a side note, but that's how I roll. Is when you start working together, you start matching. I'm not even kidding you. It happens almost every day. We are matching.
We match too, look.
See?
I was dressed before her, though, but just so we all know.
It just happens. Sorry.
Look, my leggings match his style of top, too. That's really funny.
It's true. You'll notice it every day. You guys match.
Do you guys have any other questions? We're gonna kind of wrap up here, but if you guys have any other questions, let us know. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say what Megan was saying about her why and how she discovered her why when she was talking to Phil. When I lost my job, and then I was like just brainstorming what I was gonna do, and I decided, well, what if I could do LuLaRoe? And then what I could do is I could go to school, and I could, in a couple of years, I could probably start teaching. So I go to her with this, and she goes, oh, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Did I not tell you that's what I was thinking?
Communication.
She knew that was her why, and she never shared it with me. But, honestly, because of this, we're humans, for selfish reasons, I may have been more in and supportive if I'd understood that why earlier.
Yeah. The
Anyway, that
sooner
kind of leads
you're
into our
clear on
challenge.
that together, I think the sooner you can accomplish bigger things together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
Sorry. I was just going to say that leads into our challenge we're going to leave with you guys, which we want you guys to really think about your why, and then we want you to share it with your husband or spouse or support
Partner,
system.
yeah,
So get on the same page and make sure they know what LuLaRoe is for you. And you can also have them, you can discuss like what we discussed today is how they can help, where they can help, and what with. So that's our little challenge we're going to leave you with. Were there any other questions?
Oh, thanks, Leanne. Okay, so just to wrap up real quick. So thank you. We're really grateful that you guys are on here. Thank you to the Richards. You guys are awesome. So for your challenge, we'll post about it too, just to remind you guys. But basically, share your why, and then ask for commitment from your spouse or partner, and just discuss what needs you have, and discuss as far as the spouse, discuss what you can offer. But I think, thanks, Cindy. I think we're all done. I think we'll wrap up. Oh, do you want to unmute anybody in case they have a question they want to ask?
Well, you can unmute yourself.
Yep.
Oh, you can?
Everybody can unmute themselves.
Okay. Well, thank you, and we love you, and we're going to end. You want to turn off the recording?
Okay, yeah.
Bye, guys.
See you guys.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone,
you
for
guys.
being on.
Just waiting for him to. You guys can cancel.